Long before Canada was a country, the lands we now call home were a complex tapestry of indigenous nations with their own long-standing alliances and rivalries. When European settlers arrived, these existing relationships were pulled into much larger imperial wars. The French and British colonies, New France, and the 13 colonies were constantly drawn into conflicts that were really extensions of European power struggles. Key battles at places like Queenston Heights and Châteauguay helped forge a distinct sense of a shared Canadian identity, separate from our neighbors to the south. After Confederation in 1867, the newly formed Dominion of Canada began to face its own internal conflicts. The westward expansion led to the Red River and Northwest resistances. Complex and tragic events involving Louis Riel and the Métis, people fighting for their land and rights. These were defining moments for the young nation. Soon, Canada's military focus would turn overseas. The Boer War in South Africa at the turn of the 20th century marked Canada's first major foreign deployment. It was a controversial war at home, but it set a precedent for Canada answering the call to fight alongside the British Empire. And that call would come again, in a way no one could have imagined. In 1914, when Britain declared war on Germany, Canada, as part of the empire, was automatically at war too. The First World War would change everything. Over 650,000 Canadians served in the military, a massive number for a country of just 8 million people. Tragically, 66,000 of them would never come home. Canadian soldiers quickly earned a reputation as elite shock troops on the brutal Western Front. They faced the horror of the first gas attacks at Ypres, endured the meat grinder of the Somme, and fought through the hellish mud of Passchendaele. But it was in April 1917 that the Canadian Corps achieved its most iconic victory. For the first time, all 4 Canadian divisions fought together to capture the heavily fortified VME Ridge, a position that British and French forces had failed to take. The victory at VME was a stunning military achievement, but it became something more, a symbol of national unity and Canada's emergence as a nation on the world stage. The war transformed Canada's economy, its society, and earned it an independent seat at the peace negotiations. Just 2 decades later, the world was plunged into darkness again, but this time, Canada made its own choice. In September 1939, a week after Britain, Canada declared war on Germany as an independent nation. The Second World War saw an even greater mobilization. Over 1 million Canadians served in uniform. The war was fought on every front. The Royal Canadian Navy played a vital role in the Battle of the Atlantic, escorting convoys of supplies and troops to Britain, all while hunting German U-boats in a deadly game of cat and mouse. In the skies, the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, based in Canada, trained over 130,000 aircrew from across the Allied nations. Canadian pilots flew in the Battle of Britain and in the massive bombing campaigns over Europe. On the ground, Canadian soldiers faced brutal fighting. They defended Hong Kong against overwhelming odds, suffered devastating losses in the disastrous Dieppe raid, and fought a long, bloody campaign up the spine of Italy. And then came D-Day. On June 6, 1944, 14,000 Canadian soldiers stormed ashore at Juno Beach, breaching Hitler's Atlantic Wall and fighting their way inland. From there, they fought through Northwest Europe, playing a key role in the liberation of the Netherlands, an act for which the Dutch people show their gratitude to this day. The war solidified Canada's place as a significant middle power. The end of World War II didn't bring lasting peace. It brought the Cold War. In 1950, Canada joined a United Nations force to defend South Korea against invasion. and NORAD partnering with the United States to guard North American airspace against Soviet bombers and stationing troops in West Germany. This era also saw the rise of a new role for Canada: peacekeeping. For decades, Canadians in blue berets served around the world in Cyprus, the Middle East, the Balkans, and in the tragic, under-equipped mission in Rwanda. Then, the world changed on September 11, 2001. In response to the 9/11 attacks, Canada joined the international coalition in Afghanistan. This mission would become Canada's longest-ever military conflict. Over 40,000 Canadian Armed Forces members deployed between 2001 and 2014. They fought a difficult counterinsurgency war in Kandahar province. Facing insurgent attacks and the constant threat of IEDs, they also worked on reconstruction, security, and training Afghan forces. The cost was immense. 159 Canadian soldiers lost their lives in Afghanistan, and thousands more were wounded, both physically and mentally. Today, Canada's military role continues to evolve. The Canadian Armed Forces serve in NATO missions in Eastern Europe, participate in disaster response at home and abroad, and support allies around the globe. Modern conflict is changing, and now includes cyber defense, drones, and even space technologies. Our military has also become more diverse, with women and people from all backgrounds serving in every possible role. Looking back, Canada's military history is a story of courage, hardship, and immense sacrifice. From the colonial militias defending their homes to the soldiers in the muddy trenches of France, the sailors on the frigid Atlantic, and the peacekeepers and modern soldiers serving under the Maple Leaf Canadians have repeatedly stepped forward in times of global crisis. The cost has been terribly high: tens of thousands killed, many more wounded in body and spirit, and countless families forever changed by loss. Every November 11th, on Remembrance Day, we pause to honor those who have served. Their stories are a powerful reminder that peace and freedom are fragile, and that understanding the sacrifices of our past is essential to guiding the choices we make for our future. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you in the next one.